Hey everybody, this is James Decker with Michigan State University Extension. Today we're out in the field checking out our NRCS Conservation Innovation Grant Project looking at cover crop interseeding in corn. So today I'm sitting here under the canopy in Stevenson, Michigan on the Havelka Dairy Farm. And this is a field that we interseeded cover crops, and right now we're looking at crimson clover. So this corn, silage corn, was planted on May 13th this spring, and then we came back on June 18th and interseeded cover crops. We built a special tool with an APV interseeder, air seeder, excuse me, and put that on a toolbar with some S-tines and drag chains. That allowed us to come into the corn about V4, or when it was about this high, and interseed the cover crops. So we actually put 3 different cover crop treatments out here. We did some triticale, some annual ryegrass, and then also this crimson clover. And what we found at this point in the year as the corn is starting to tassel and pollinate is that really the crimson clover seems to have done best this year. And we're probably in one of the better spots for the crimson clover, where we've got a good stand of clover, not too many weeds, and it looks like the clover is going to probably be able to persist and still be there in the fall after we take off the silage. In other spots in the field, we've had more challenges, and mostly related to weeds. This field has a decent seed bank of grass weeds. Looks like maybe some quackgrass or crabgrass, and also a little bit of foxtail. And in those areas where we had a lot of weed pressure, the weeds seem to have taken over the cover crop, particularly in the grasses, in the triticale and in the annual rye. Crimson clover seems to have fared a little bit better than the 2 grass species, so we'll see how it does going forward. Some of the issues with the way that we interseeded these cover crops that we might reconsider in the future for the second year of this project next year. The way we have our interseeder set up right now, it's cultivating with S-tines in front of the seeder. The air seeder is blowing the seed down on that loosened soil, and then we've got drag chains coming behind and covering it up. And we thought that would be a great adaptation on an air seeder to get that seed actually into the soil and get seed-soil contact and not worry about moisture on top being a problem for establishment. But it actually seems like that may have been a negative in this case for 2 reasons. Perhaps some of that small seed, particularly on the annual rye, maybe even the triticale, got covered up a little bit too deep, and we didn't get the kind of establishment that we wanted because of that. Also, those S-tines are disturbing the soil right before we're seeding, which means that any weeds or weed seeds that are in that soil or rhizomes from grasses are going to be ready to grow as soon as we are done with that operation. And in the areas where we ran the air seeder, the second flush of weeds seems to be worse, and we do have a lot of weeds competing with the cover crop. So that can be a challenge. In the past, we've used the air seeder without any incorporation. And we don't have the weed problem, there's not disturbance there, but you oftentimes have a failed cover crop because of a lack of soil moisture in that very top layer. Or sometimes the cover crop will even germinate and then terminate after it dries out if you just get a little bit of rain. After looking at just broadcast air seeding with some incorporation, we're kind of wondering what the next step will be. And I know there are tools out there like the Penn State interseeder that actually drills cover crop in between the corn rows, and you would avoid excessive soil disturbance that would lead to weed problems, and also get good seed soil contact at that setup. So we continue to innovate, just like the grant title, Conservation Innovation Grant, and try new things here in Menominee County in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, looking at cover crop interseeding this year.
I'm Scott Havelka, and this is my son Matthew.
So what kind of farm do you guys have?
Dairy farm. Milk about 100, and we farm about 850.
We're standing out in this area where we did some alfalfa and corn intercropping, and you've just walked through and gotten to see the clean alfalfa plots where we are standing right now, some of the mixed plots of corn and alfalfa, and then the corn only. What's your general impression of how the corn and alfalfa are doing right now?
Pretty impressed with how the alfalfa itself is doing, and with it interseeded in with the corn for a stand. Looks pretty good right now.
Corn is a little stunted from where it is, but it looks halfway decent yet though.
Something that you think might be a benefit for your soil?
Well, you got your your dirt covered with the alfalfa out here.
Less
So you're-
erosion.
So you're saving on erosion.
It's hard in the UP to fit in timing to do any cover crops unless you're doing them interseeded or intercropped like this. Do you think that the interseeded area that's advantageous compared to like if you were going to try to fit in a cover crop after you take corn off?
I don't know if a cover crop, it's kind of late for putting cover crops in the fall though, so I think it's kind of a tough gig for doing cover crops in the fall after harvest, I would think. I don't know.
Do you ever get any rye or anything after corn comes out?
We never do, no.
Yeah. Well, I would assume, most UP farmers don't.
They struggle, yeah.
So this is, for you, it's almost the only way that you get a cover crop.
Yeah.
in, huh?
You know,